So this is the Champions League review. The group stage is over and it's on to the knockout round. Let's have a little look now, a bit of graphic on screen action of how Group A finished. We topped it, superb, great news. Boys, how has Moyes adapted to Europe? Is he doing a good job, Adam?
I think David Moyes has approached, I think his managerial style is more suited to Europe, where we have to play on the counter-attack a little bit more and teams come out at us a little bit. So I think that's why we've done well. We've got 4 clean sheets in the group stage as well. So obviously it's been built on a foundation of a good defence. But our attacking football in Europe has been a lot better. And I believe that's because more teams have come out at us. And compared to the league where teams, not so much sit back, but we're expected to take the game to teams and pick their defence. I think we found it easier in Europe because we have been able to counter-attack teams a little bit more.
What do you think of that, Dale? Why do you think our form has differed so much in Europe than the Premier League?
I agree with Adam, but I also think weaker opposition too. I think week in, week out in the league, I think some teams are planning on cancelling us out and they're looking at where we're strengthening in Europe. And some of the teams playing in Europe just aren't that good, to be honest. I think as we progress, we'll start to see in Europe that teams with better midfields may overrun us. Like we've been lucky in that regard. But even last night against Shakhtar, they have some fantastic players in midfield. They're under high tempo, and they were unlucky. I think until we made a few substitutions, we grabbed the game by the neck.
Okay, you've just touched on the opposition, saying maybe we're playing weaker opponents in Europe than we are at home. But what about what we're doing? Do you think David Moyes is implying a different strategy in European football?
I think it's a bit similar to what Ferguson was doing in Europe the past few years. I think we've been solid in Europe. You know, we are getting 14 points from a possible 18. So you can complain about that. I think what we need to work on is the tempo, is improving our performance. We're just tactically, we're winning games in Europe. We're getting the points. We've topped our group. You know, there's little you can complain about that. I think it's just a matter right now of improving performance-wise. I think that's what we need to work on, especially with January sales. Who becomes available, we don't know yet. So it'd be interesting to see how we progress performance-wise in the knockout stages.
If I remember correctly, though, I think it's been a different mentality in Europe than a different style. I mean, apart from Donetsk away, where we played 3 in the middle, I think yesterday we played 4-4-2, and again in the first half, as I said in my review, like it was too open in the middle, and I think it's been just a different mentality rather than a different style of play. Apart from that Donetsk away game, I think so. I think it's just been more, happy to soak it up a little bit and then hit them on the break. Whereas, as I said, in Europe, in the league rather, we have to take it to teams, and we found that difficult this season.
Okay, now there's been a lot of talk in the media here in the Premier League about our fear factor and whether we still maintain, a certain edge over teams and whether there's an aura around Old Trafford. Do you think that still exists in Europe? Teams won't want us in the draw, will they?
Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
Go on, Dale.
I think the fear factor remains. You just listen to what Sami Hyypiä said after the first leg against Bayern Leverkusen. He said his players basically, the second they came to Old Trafford, they were totally frightened. They were thinking before the games, I'm up against Van Persie and all these players. That remains in Europe. I think personally in the league, I think some teams are basically saying they're going to come to Old Trafford and have a go at us. It remains in Europe that those teams are wary of doing so. And I think as Adam said, we've approached it with the right manner. We're kind of willing to soak it up and then hitting the teams in the counter attack. And as that continues to happen, these teams will continue coming and they will be wary. The fear factor is still there. It's Old Trafford. It's Manchester United. That will never leave unless we go on years and years of poor football.
So Liverpool is what you're saying there.
Maybe.
I'm with you. Which players have shone for you in Europe this season?
I think Johnny Evans has been fantastic at the back for us. I mentioned just before, Johnny Evans has been probably my man of the season so far. After Wayne Rooney, Wayne Rooney's played well. I think Valencia's had his better games in Europe this season, and I think as a whole, what I think is as a team we performed better. I think you'll find we're susceptible. We're a bit dodgy to pace, and teams like to build a little bit slower in Europe, and that's why we've played better. I think. I mean, you know, the likes of Giggs in Europe, he looks like he's 25 still, and you know, he can run rings around players, and he gets time on the ball, and he can pass the ball better, as we saw away at Leverkusen. And I think in the league, the difference is we get pressed so much, and teams, you know, are right on our toes, and that we don't get the time to do that. And I think that's been a different. I don't think there's been one standout player. I think the teams perform generally well, but I think, yeah, Evans, Valencia, and Rooney have done well. And David De Gea, of course, 4 clean sheets in 6 games is no mean feat.
No, it's a great effort. Dale, has anyone stood out for you?
Yeah, Phil Jones for me, big time. I think he's just a big game player. I think he did it last season in Europe as well. He stands up and he's always counted. He does the dirty work a lot of the time. I think Moy said it last night that he plans on putting him back in defence once they can secure a midfielder and transfer window. Jones goes out there, does his job week in, week out, and he's just consistent. I think he's going to progress into a fine footballer, and whenever he's called upon, he just shows up. Last night against Shakhtar Donetsk, just read the game brilliantly. He's always there. He's always willing to put his head where you wouldn't put your foot. I just think he's superb, and he's progressing into a fine player.
The thing with Phil Jones, I know it's not his fault that he plays centre mid. He's always saying, I'm a centre back. But I think when he's as you said, he's fantastic when he's given a job to do in that central midfielder, whether it's marking a player or, you know, just being told to sit there. But the problem for me when he is playing in central midfield is when he has to think, and when he has to, he has the ball and he has time and space, and that's where he lets himself down in the central midfield area. But of course, he doesn't really want to play there, so can't argue, can we?
Okay, so moving forward, what do we need to do differently? Where do we need to improve if we want to progress in the tournament?
We need to up the tempo. We need to improve midfield. We've been saying this for years now. I think once we do come against bigger opposition, we're going to be overrun. The bigger teams in Europe have better midfields than we do. That's an easy one. It's been the case for years. But I think it's really starting to show right now. When we do come up against bigger opposition, I think we're in trouble simply because of that. So in January, I said if someone does become available that could improve us in that particular area, we have to get it over and done with. No messing about like happened this summer. Get it over and done with, because that's the one area I'm worried about. Improve that, and we can hopefully move on. It's an open competition. All the cups are. So, you know, can David Moyes go and do a Berto Matteo on it? Who knows? It's an open competition. You'd be stupid to totally rule us out.
Okay, Adam, do you agree? Is the only way to progress to buy players?
I mean, how much players can we buy that are going to improve us and that aren't cup tied in a European game? So I think any improvements is going to be aimed towards the league form more. But I do think, you know, as the likes of Fellaini, it's his first season in the Champions League. I'm not saying he's going to solve all our problems, but we need to. I think teams will obviously have better central midfields than us. I think we've still got that fear factor. No one's going to want to face Manchester United, you know, especially now we've won our group, so we're gonna have our second leg at Old Trafford. That's a big point for me as well. But I think we just need to improve as a collective. I mean, yesterday we didn't play that well. I know we were all happy to get the win, and the win is all that matters, but we didn't play that well. And that's the worrying thing. It's too easy to get through our midfield. I'd like to see us quicken the tempo up as well. When we're not, you know, on the counter-attack, we're very quick, but when we're attacking teams, we just seem to, okay, we'll make another pass, and then it goes all the way back, and then we'll do the same, and then it goes all the way back, and it's just tedious to watch. I think we need to quicken it up a little bit. I did say to Alan and Johnny in London, when we went down for the Fulham game, I got a sneaky feeling we're going to, if we don't win it, do very well in Europe. I've just got a sneaky feeling. Don't ask me why. But I do think we can do it, yeah, but obviously it's a cup competition, anything can happen.
Dale, money where your mouth is, can we realistically win the European Cup?
Of course we can. Do I think we will? No, I'm going to say semi-final. I think we will do well in Europe this year. I think talking semi-final, that's a good run. But then again, if you get to that stage, anything can happen. You know, you never know with these open competitions. Like, we can win it. Do I think we will? No. maybe. I don't know.
Right, Dale, thanks very much. Guys, thanks for getting involved. See you soon.
Thank you.
Now, let's take a look at the teams that have qualified for the last 16. All the usual suspects, the big hitters are all there. Apart from Juventus, a little bit of a surprise. So, let's look at who we can draw. That's the most important thing right now. I guess looking at that, you'd say you want to get the likes of Olympiacos because sort of an easy road through, hopefully, fingers crossed, and avoid the likes of AC Milan. Although some people love a glamour time, want to see us come up against the big teams. Do let us know what you think. Comment below, write it down there with your little fingers. We like to read it. Now, the draw takes place on the 16th of December, and we will be reacting to that, so we will see you then. Guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And good news, we're top of the table. We're top of a table. There's 4 teams, but we're top of the table. Celebrate anything over here.